So welcome to today's webinar, which is all about planning for your Christmas success, where we're going to be looking at an online marketing strategy, some of the things that you need to be thinking about, how you need to be thinking about them, and obviously bearing all of that and pulling all of that together in time for the other big C word that we're going to be talking about, which is Christmas rather than Corona or COVID, which seems to be what we've been speaking about mainly for the last 18 months or so. So as I said, feel free to pop any questions in the chat box. I will be taking questions as I go. If it's something that I know I'm going to cover, I'll come back to it. Alternatively, I am going to be leaving question time at the end. So please feel free to ask me any questions then as well. If it does come up in the chat box, I can't always guarantee I can get to it while I'm actually presenting. So feel free to leave it to the end. I will try, I just can't guarantee it. Just to give you a heads up as well, I am currently broadcasting from home. So as a lot of us have switched to working from home. If I don't tell you, what will happen is the doorbell will ring, there'll be a delivery that I'm not expecting, the dogs will start barking. So just to give you a warning about all of those. Hopefully it won't happen, but if I don't talk about it, it does. If I do let you know, then inevitably it doesn't. So fingers crossed we go for the next 45 minutes or so relatively undisturbed. So planning for your Christmas success. Before we get started, just to give you a little bit of information about who we are. You may be familiar with us, you may not. So we are Social Bee. My name's Amy Hobson, and I'm going to be your voice for the next 3/4 of an hour or so. And you can see here some of our clients and some of the people that we've worked with. So here, obviously, there are some big high street names. Some of these that I've worked with, Sue, Boohoo, Pyrex from a training perspective. One of the things, though, that I love about digital marketing, and it's something that I come back to very often and quite frequently, is that there is no size with it. So with digital marketing, the same principles apply, whether you are one of these big high street brands or you're a much smaller business. It doesn't really make much difference in terms of size. The biggest difference is obviously size of pockets and normally size of the team that's doing it. But in terms of the principles themselves, those digital marketing principles stay the same no matter what. So today's key takeaways, these are the things that we're going to be looking at as we go through. So why your content needs to be adapted for Christmas, what you need to be thinking about in terms of Christmas, and why that needs to be doing it now. So why do you need to start your content for Christmas now? Isn't it too early? The kids have only just gone back to school. We're not even in October. But there's a couple of reasons why that is really important. The other thing is to help you to decide what content you need to be creating to help you with that marketing and sales, so that you get that bumper Christmas that we all look forward to and that we're all hoping for. Now, this is one of the main reasons why you need to think about the Christmas side of it and why you need to be thinking about talking about it now. And that's because your customers are starting to think about it, they're starting to plan, and they're starting to get ready for it now. Now, this is a recent report from eBay UK where they said eagerness to make up for lost time sees 27% of respondents throw themselves into Christmas preparations earlier than last year, with 41% expecting to be fully prepared before December even begins. Now, the significance of that is that obviously over the last 18 months, things have changed. We know that they have. The way that we are seeing relatives has changed. The way that we're able to do things has changed. It has had a massive impact. And let's face it, there was nothing more disappointing last Christmas than that message that we got that told us that we weren't going to be able to spend as much time with loved ones as we were expecting to because of the lockdown. We know that it makes a difference, and we know that that's also made a difference in terms of the way that we shop, the way that we plan, and Christmas is no different to that. Now, it's important that we're ready for Christmas and that you're planning for Christmas and you're talking about Christmas, because it's now that your audience are starting to think about it, particularly in my, if you like, my experience, and I've had quite a lot of experience within the retail sector. It's one of the things that I specialize in. Once you start hitting that September, October, and November pay dates, there's always that little flurry at the start of the month. So it isn't too late for you to start optimizing and start thinking about those things now to be able to hit those when your customers are ready, so that you're ready as well. As I said, she wasn't supposed to bark. I didn't think she would, but she is. I've got a guest dog with me, unfortunately. She's not quite as settled as mine. So we know in the news, obviously, as well, there's another couple of reasons why we want people to be prepared and why people are becoming more and more prepared. And that's because the news isn't great. So we're being told about shortages. You'd have to be blind and completely deaf to not have been able to see the problems around garages, the problems. I had a queue outside my office window a couple of days ago that was literally 25, 30 cars long. There's normally one car on the forecourt at a time, if I'm lucky. And we know that that's going to have a knock-on effect. Because if for no other reason, then we know we have a shortage of delivery drivers. We're dealing with Brexit, we're dealing with delivery, we're dealing with all of those things. And that is going to have an impact because the news is telling us to. So we're being told to start shopping early. Smiths toy stores have been saying that you need to be shopping early to make sure that you get the presents that you want, because they can't guarantee that supply chain because of COVID and the disruption that it's caused. So again, we need to be ready, and you need to be ready to be able to deal with that from your customers' point of view, so that your customers know where they can come to when they're ready to hit that buy now button. But one of the things to bear in mind with any of your online marketing is that it always comes down to this. It's always about finding the sweet spot. Now, the problem with this, well, there's a couple of problems with this, and I'll tell you what those are. The first problem with this is that on one side, you've got your company objectives, and your company objectives are to sell. You want to be able to sell more, you want to be able to grow your business, you want to be able to connect with your customers and to be able to sell to them. Of course you do. And that's what we're using online for. That's what our website's for, that's what our social media for, that's what we're giving our email campaigns to. The problem with that is that on the other side of that spectrum, we've got human needs. And as a human, I don't go onto those social media platforms and I don't necessarily browse because I'm ready to buy now. So if your message is one of, I've got this, please buy, and I'm not ready to buy, that's going to cause a huge disconnect. What you're actually looking for is to try and find that sweet spot in the middle that meets your company objectives to be able to sell, but also helps from the human perspective of how they want to be sold to. If you were to ask a big group of people, why do they use social media? I can almost guarantee that practically nobody, maybe one or two at the very most, is going to say, oh, I'm on there for people to sell to me. We might be on there for discovery, for inspiration, to find out things and to discover more about the different products that we might be interested in, or for inspiration, for Christmas ideas, or to buy, to buy a gift for that person who has everything. But what we can't guarantee is that we want to be there to be sold to. That always feels, and when you start to describe it like that, it always feels a little bit like that secondhand car salesman who, the minute he makes eye contact with you, is going to make a beeline to you and he's going to make you want to buy. And it just doesn't feel comfortable. And as a business, we don't want to feel like that either. So sometimes we have to stop and we have to take a step back. We have to think about it from a slightly different perspective. So it isn't just about what message do I have, what message do we as a company have to give, but what is our audience ready to hear? Now, this time of the year, they might not be ready for a buy now message because they're thinking about what to buy when they're ready to buy. So at this stage, that's where you can start thinking about all the other lovely stuff you can do, like adding value, creating content around that. I am really, really sorry. You're going to have to bear with me 1 second while I just close the door so that she can't see what's making her bark in the garden. Bear with me. Apologies about that, but I'm back. So it's all about finding this sweet spot in the middle. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. And I'm going to cover some of those with you as we go through the slides. The other thing to bear in mind when we're talking about content, when we're talking about selling to your customers, is that inevitably a buying journey isn't as simple as I'm here, I'm going to go to this bit, I'm going to go to that bit, and I'm going to buy. It's very rarely linear. Yeah, it's very rarely straightforward. There's lots of different ways that we do this, and there's lots of different ways that we come to a decision to buy. Now, don't get me wrong, there will always be people, and you might be one of those. I know I have been on occasion where I think, oh, I really want that, I'm going to buy it. Yeah, I was out shopping yesterday. I saw something that would absolutely match exactly what I was looking for. I bought it there and then. I didn't really think about it very much. But on the other side of that, I've been looking for something for one of my children for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I keep going back to it because I still haven't quite found what it is that I'm looking for. That doesn't make me any less of a buyer because I'm not ready to buy just yet. It just means that I'm looking for that inspiration. What that does mean, though, is it's never as straightforward as simply, I'll see it, I'll buy it, end transaction. It's very rare that that actually happens, particularly nowadays, because we have so many different things that we are vying for our attention. So when we go onto Facebook, we've got adverts, we've got sponsored in there. When we go to Instagram, we're seeing all kinds of different things all of the time. Take that, one step further on the slightly wider world of online marketing. I'm on a website, I can see something that I put in my cart yesterday, but I can also see something new based on that thing that I visited yesterday. So there's all kinds of different ways that doesn't work. And one of the things that I would urge you to check out, I can't go into any huge amount of detail here simply because we don't have the time for it today, but is to look at the Google model of the see, think, do, and care. Now that see, think, do, and care is a really good example of how you could be at any different stage in that journey before you're actually ready to buy. The other thing as well to think about is that as a business, because we're on there to sell, we tend to concentrate on the people who are ready to buy now. But actually, the reality is that that number of people is probably the smallest number of people that you have in your audience. There's an awful lot more who are looking, who have seen it, but aren't quite ready to buy it, or are thinking about definitely buying it. See with the see and the think, with the do and the care. But with that do, that actually section is really, really quite small. Equally, don't forget your loyal customers. So your care in that see, think, do, care model from Google. But think about that care model as well. So that care are the people who've already bought from you. How can they be persuaded to come back? How can they be persuaded to buy into a recommendation, or to be able to refer you to their friends and family? Because actually that's one of the easiest ways to get a more direct route, is to get somebody to recommend you in the right way, in a positive way. But that line is never, ever linear. So that customer journey changes. But think about all of the different ways that a customer can come to you. Think about all of those different gaps that you need to plug, if you like, in terms of the content and in terms of the discovery that they might have when they're looking for whatever it is that you sell. And, ask yourself, what type of Christmas shopper are you? Are you A, I've got a full list with exactly what I'm going to buy everybody, so I know I'm ready, I'm prepared, I'm done? Are you B, you've got a rough list, but I'm going to be looking for inspiration when I go into store or online? Or are you C, I need inspiration and I head online in store to help me, especially for tricky people like dads and granddads, etc. Now, I'll be honest, I probably fall into each one of these. So for some people, I've got a full list, I know exactly what I'm going to be buying. For others, I've got a vague idea of what it is that they want, but I'm definitely looking for inspiration. But then in other ways, particularly dads and granddads being the perfect one for that one, my dad and my brother are a nightmare to buy for. Yeah, I always kind of think of it as what can I buy somebody who has everything that they want, and if they don't, it's because they don't want it because they can afford to buy it themselves. Yeah, they're always the really tricky ones. So in actual fact, I probably fit into each of those. But what that means is that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, what that means is that there is lots of different opportunities for you to be able to persuade me that I want to buy from you, by helping me to fill those gaps, by either providing me with that inspiration for me to be able to find it when I roughly know what I'm looking for being able to provide inspiration when I have no idea what I'm looking for, other than I know it needs to be for my dad. Yeah, or when I've got that full list, you being the person that I want to come and buy from. And what type of Christmas shopper are you planning to be this year? Is that different to what you've been in previous years? Are you very much a one shop and it's done? Yeah, my partner, we go shopping once a year for Christmas. He gets everything. If he doesn't get it, they're not having it. That's how he sees it. I'm not like that. I'm a much more of, I like to shop around. I like to go to different places. I'm always looking for that perfect gift. Yeah, I'm looking for that from different stores, different brands. And I'm not only looking when I'm actually out shopping, but I'm looking when I'm online as well. And how do you think that that's changed? So are you going to planning to be a different type of shopper this year? I'll be honest, I definitely fall into the category of wanting to be more prepared. I definitely fall into that category of wanting to be ready for Christmas, because last year I left things a little bit too late and it just didn't feel very comfortable. And I'm not the only one. There are lots of us out there. But it's really, really important to always wear your customer's shoes when we're talking about online marketing. So no matter what it is you sell, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether a belief, whatever that is, I'm so sorry. You have to bear with me 1 second while I sort it out. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry about that. The postman decided to push a letter through the letterbox. How dare he? Which unfortunately set the dog off. I am really, really sorry. Inevitably, they've been walked. There's been nothing that they've been doing all day. And inevitably, they haven't made a noise all morning. And then as soon as I start this, they decide to join in. So wearing your customer's shoes. This is one of the key aspects for me of digital marketing and online marketing, and getting it right is to always put yourself in your customer's shoes. Now, one of the conversations that I have with a lot of businesses is when I say to them, who's your customer? And they tell me that it's everyone. Yeah. Now, the reality is that it's actually really hard to sell to everyone. Even the biggest brands in the world don't sell to everyone. They know who their customers are, and they're okay to niche down with that. And you should be the same. The really important thing is to know who your customers are, and then to put yourself in your customer's shoes. What is it that they want to see? What is it that they find useful? What are their objections? What are their beliefs? What is it that you can tap into that is going to help you to connect with them? We know that when we are talking about shopping, when we're talking about online, when we're talking about meeting people online, and obviously over the last 18 months, this has been the main area that it's been happening, is that we need to be able to know, like, and trust somebody before we're willing to make a decision. Now, if it's just the odd thing, a tiny thing, a couple of pounds, we're obviously going to do it. But if it's a more major investment, or we're going to have to give something time, or we're not 100% certain of what the outcome is going to be, then we need to know, like, and trust. And one of the ways that we can help to build that relationship is to really put yourself in your customer's shoes and to make sure that you are there every day. So when you're looking at stock, what's my customers going to buy? And we do this quite a lot without even realizing that we're doing it, but we sometimes forget to translate it into online marketing. So making sure that we can switch that on and that we can say, yes, I know what my customer's looking for. I know what my customer's objections are. I know what my customer's going to find useful at this stage in their journey to be able to help them to make a decision to buy from us. Yeah, it's an interesting question, actually, in terms of the British made. I would anyway, because I think a lot of us are looking to be able to buy local and to be able to buy something that is British and something that is able to be something that, yes, definitely, it's potentially a way around delays and shortages, but I think it's also that thing of that we are increasingly wanting to buy from smaller businesses. So we're wanting to buy from smaller businesses. We want to buy British. We want to support our businesses here because of how difficult COVID has been for a lot of businesses. So I would say absolutely, there's no reason why not. And if I was and it was completely British made, I would definitely be shouting that from the rooftops as part of the marketing that we do, whether that's a Union Jack flag on the website, whatever that is, that just that gentle reminder that you are a British company, and you know, the quality that that brings with it as well, because we are known for that really good quality of product. So I would definitely be looking at that in terms of our marketing and what we're doing, absolutely. But I'd also think about that in terms of this. So if you're in your customer's shoes, what is it about being British that's going to appeal to them? What is it that's going to make them more likely to buy because you are British? What does that represent to them? And always remember that content is about engaging humans. So no matter where we put content when we're talking online, so whether that content is the description of something on our website, whether that content is our homepage, whether that content is social media or an email newsletter, content should always have the end game of being able to engage humans. Now that might just be that they connect with it. So they can see that it solves a problem that they have, so they feel connected to it. Alternatively, it might be that it empowers them with something. It might be that it entertains them. There's all kinds of different ways that content can be engaging, but it's that engagement that's really important. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that from a human aspect, engagement is really important. We remember things more easily if we've engaged with it. So rather than just seeing it, if it's something that we've had a conversation about, if it's something that we've had a connection with, we are much more likely to remember it in the future. The other thing with engagement, though, is that the algorithms need it as well. So when you're talking about, whether you're talking Google, PPC, where you get more click-throughs, yeah, those click-throughs are all engagement to some degree, yeah, and they're all positive indicators that your content is good and that people are getting what they need out of it, which means you're going to perform fundamentally better in the search rankings. Algorithms within social media absolutely thrive on engagement. So the more somebody engages with you, the more likely they are to see your content in the future. Now, that's a fairly simplistic view of engagement and how it works within the algorithms, but it's not actually far wrong, because that, we know, is one of the key elements of all of those things, is that it's about engagement and relevancy. And if something's more relevant to somebody, they're more likely to engage. So those two kind of feed really well off each other as well. And think about it in terms of, so this is one of the things I was saying in terms of inspiration and looking for things. Now, this isn't my search, but it's certainly a sort of search that I will do or have done in the past. I'm a mum of 4 boys. Trust me, lots of things have come up like this. Yeah, so there's been lots of searches like this. Now, mine's slightly more difficult because mine's gift ideas for a teenage boy who loves, rather than a 3-year-old boy who loves, seeing as mine are nearly all teenagers. But these are the kind of things that we do because we are looking for inspiration. Yeah, we turn to search engines for this information. We search to find out what other people have recommended, what's available. We've got a vague idea of what they might like. So my kids all liked slightly different things. I had one who was mad about dinosaurs. I had one who called Ben, so he was into Ben 10. We knew all of the aliens before we could, well, he never knew where his school book was, but he always knew the names of the Ben 10 aliens and what they morphed into. So there's all of these different things. And with 4 different boys, obviously, you know, I wanted to make sure that they all had a variety. But there is always that need for inspiration and discovery. And that's where we go when we're talking about search engines. And these are the kind of things that you can be in the right place for. Yeah, so this one is the start of something. And I'm going to show you and talk about that a little bit more as we go through the rest of the slides. But this is just that gentle reminder that Christmas searches are already increasing. So how we search and when we search for Christmas gifts. Now, this is a search from Google Trends. So I've taken this straight from Google Trends and I've done it on a search for just Christmas gifts. So I haven't done it more specific than that. And I would normally recommend that you do when you know what subject it is or what particular niche it is that you serve. But this is for Christmas gifts in general. And you can see here that it starts to increase from September. Now, not surprisingly, it peaks, and it peaks in the first week of December. Yeah, so that's when it's absolutely at its highest. But if you only concentrate on that one bit there in the peak, you're ignoring all of these other searches. So people are starting to search for it now. If you look at, there was a recent report from Pinterest. So obviously Pinterest is one of the social media platforms. But if you look at that, at that report and you have a look at that Pinterest report, it talks about the fact that from early September, searches for Christmas increase massively. And it's not just searches in terms of theming, parties, decorations, food, but also gift inspiration as well. So if we're looking to buy something for Christmas, we are starting to search now. So that's why your content needs to start to reflect that. Now, I know that that can feel a little bit difficult. I was in B&M on Bank Holiday weekend, and there was a whole aisle already dedicated to Christmas. And my response was an eye roll to turn to my partner and say to him, oh my God, the kids haven't even gone back to school. It's August Bank Holiday Monday. For heaven's sake, why on earth is it full of Christmas? But then that actually made me start to think. B&M work on a premium. All high street retailers do. So every single shelf has a price to it. Almost every inch has got a premium price. They're not going to put something out if people aren't selling, if people aren't buying it. They're not going to try and sell something that people aren't ready to buy. And lo and behold, the trolleys, the rounders, all had little bits of Christmas in it. I resisted. I didn't buy something. I now actually regret it because they haven't got it anymore. So I've got that FOMO going already. But people are buying. So that is a really good indicator that actually maybe now is the time we need to be speaking about Christmas. If for no other reason, then you can even start introducing the fact that you've got a cut-off, that you've got a time when people need to start thinking about it. I'll come back to that in a sec, Tom, if I can, in terms of your question. So I will come back for that. I would argue, in fact, no, I'm going to quickly cover it now. I would argue that social media is pretty much all strategic and longer term. So one of the things that we battle with a little bit as an agency is the perception that results can always be immediate and overnight, and that you can always get really good short-term results. You can, with the right plan, you can, but inevitably it involves investment. If you're talking about organic social media, yeah, so I think that there is a big difference here. So organic social media is very much about the strategic longer term. Yeah, so it's about being a presence. It's about being the person that people come to because they know that you have what it is that they want to buy. It's about that constant reminder that you're there and that you're ready when people need it and when people want to buy it. From a short-term perspective, I actually find it a little bit more, I find that with social media in particular, I think social media advertising works really well from a short-term perspective, but it takes an awful lot of consideration and to some degree being in exactly the right place at the right time to have the same short-term result from social media if it's organic. Obviously there's been lots of changes to the algorithms in the last couple of years. We know that businesses to some degree from an organic perspective don't get the same reach that they used to. It's kind of what the feedback that we get off a lot of people, a lot of the community that I work in terms of digital marketing. We know that organic has become much, much harder. And I think that to some degree has pushed apart those differences as well. So yes, from a long-term strategic, wanting to, from a brand awareness, wanting to be in the right place at the right time, those kinds of things, absolutely organic. If you wanted those short-term results, then the only way I think that you can realistically get them, it's difficult without knowing exactly the ins and outs of it, of a particular, obviously, brand, but I would say that from a short-term perspective, you're much more likely to achieve them if you've got money to invest in advertising. So moving on to content and the kind of content that you can create to be able to get the right marketing and sales. One of the things that you need to always think about and always remember is that inevitably everything comes back to your website when we're talking about online. So whether that is email marketing, whether that's social media, paid advertising, CRO, SEO, whether you're product or service based, inevitably everything comes back through to your website. And underscoring all of that around the outside of that circle, as you can see, that is analytics. And using those analytics, not just for numbers sake, but actually using them strategically to be able to make better decisions and better informed decisions about what it is you want to be doing next and what direction you need to go and the content that you need to create, and using all of that information to make a better decision for that strategy moving forward. Now, there are obviously lots and lots of different channels that you can go down. And I'm a big advocate that actually it isn't all about one. To be honest, it isn't even all about online or digital. Now, working in an online marketing world, that's almost heresy to be able to say that. But we know that for some businesses, yes, it is all online because that's their only presence. But even for others, it's some of that offline as well. So recommendations that come face to face, all of those things also play a part, even for the brands that are all online. Yeah. If you're a mix, so if you're in a situation where you've got bricks and mortar as well, then inevitably you've got that mix of both. But that strategy and taking it, all of those different strands and working on all of those different strands is really important. However, there is something to bear in mind here. Even if you've got the best email campaign in the world, the best social media campaigns running, even if you've got the best paid advertising, if your website doesn't stack up, it's always going to cause you problems. So if you've got the most amazing social media channels, it's running effectively, it's driving loads of traffic through, but your website doesn't make it easy for people to buy, or there's any other problems, it takes forever to load, there's all kinds of different things and all kinds of different reasons why people can get turned off by it. But if that website isn't really working for you, then it's a little bit like having an amazing shop window and then keeping the door closed and not letting anybody in the shop. So all of these pieces have to go together, but always remember that fundamentally it's coming back through to your website, and it's your website that's the very heart of all of these things. And your website needs to be working for you to be able to get the most out of everything else. And if you know, hand on heart, that something somewhere is wrong, you're happy that you've got the right campaigns going, you're getting good engagement, you're getting good click-throughs, but you're not getting the purchases, then look at your website. Yeah, inevitably something somewhere's happened there. You're welcome, Tom. So the other thing as well to bear in mind is when you're looking at all of those things is to really plan your digital marketing. Now, this is something that we are really big believers in terms of having a plan and having a strategy in place. There's lots of businesses that we talk to where when we talk to them, what's your strategy? What's your digital marketing strategy? They had one a couple of years ago. It's gathering dust somewhere in a pretty folder somewhere, but it's not actually giving them any benefit now. Now, part of that is because it needs to evolve and it needs to change. Let's face it, 18 months ago, whoever thought that we would be talking about a pandemic, which still seems to have a grip on lots of different parts of us. What we know is that having that plan, revising it, tweaking it, using it as that basis for where you need to be helps for a couple of reasons. One, it stops you going off piste. So knowing what it is you're trying to achieve, what it is you're doing to try and achieve that, therefore who you need to speak to, what content you need to create, all of that flows from that. If you don't have that clear goal, then you tend to be very haphazard. You become a little bit of a scattergun approach, trying all kinds of different things, hoping that something eventually sticks. Now, the reality is that some of it will eventually stick, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's law of averages rather than because you're using it effectively. So having that plan and thinking about it in terms of the three main aspects of it. So how am I going to attract my customers? How am I going to engage with them? And how am I going to convert them? Yeah, so what am I going to need to do to help them through that journey, and plan your digital marketing accordingly. Now, one of those things from a conversion point of view might be conversion rate optimization for your website. So you might want that as part of your strategy, and as part of your plan is to work on your conversion rate optimization. So when customers come through, they're more likely to convert to what it is that you're doing. So sorry. Honestly, I haven't had a single murmur out of the dogs all morning. Bear with me. So when you're planning your digital marketing, always think about these three things. We need to attract people first, we need to engage, we need to convert. If you've got loads of great conversion, but you're not attracting them in the first place, that's not going to work for you. Equally, you're attracting loads of people, but you can't convert them, something somewhere's wrong. So you need to always be thinking about those stages and how it works for your business. When you're creating content, always think about it in terms of it having a purpose. Yeah, we get very used to, we've got something to sell, let's just create content and put it out there. That inevitably doesn't work for a lot of businesses. And the reason it doesn't work is because it doesn't connect. Yeah, we're looking to be able to connect. So think back to what I was saying about engaging is you know, content is all about engaging. It's all about engaging humans. That helps with that connection. And we need that connection to know, like, and trust to want to be able to buy. Now, content should ideally educate, empower, and or entertain. And the other thing that it needs to do nowadays, definitely in light of the last 18 months, and that this is where we went to be able to connect, it needs to connect. Yeah, so what can you do when you create content? What are we doing it for? What's its purpose? It's to add value, fantastic. You're helping, you're educating, or you're empowering. If it's something that you know your audience are going to react really well to, it's entertaining, then go for it. Although I do always have the caveat to that. If you have to ask if it's funny, it isn't, don't do it, is my general rule for that one. But content should have a purpose. Yeah, and you're better off, and this is one of the things that we come across quite a lot as well, is we come across a lot of businesses who are really churning out loads of content without any real meaning to it, because you're better off actually doing 2 or 3 really great pieces of content that connect and get good engagement than 10 that do nothing and your audience don't care about. So always thinking about quality over quantity as part of that. Because as we know, gone are the days of simply freestyling your digital marketing and getting away with it. That hasn't happened for a really long time. You need to have that plan in place. If I had a pound for every time somebody said to me, oh, we were meant to do that and we forgot, or, oh yeah, we forgot to put that in the plan, so we didn't actually get any great photos of the event we were at, or we launched it 3 weeks ago, but we've only just caught up on social media. Trust me, it's very, very common. But that's why, as part of your plan right from the start, you need to include online. So gone are those days where you could just do it as and when you wanted to and hope it would stick. You can do it that way if you want to, but the chances are it isn't working for you. Have that plan in place, and certainly have that plan in place between now and after Christmas into the new year. What are we going to be talking about? When are we going to be talking about it? And think about it in terms of quality over quantity. So you're much better off doing 2 or 3 things really, really well than 5 or 6 half attempts. I get this as well in terms of social media. So I'll speak to businesses and they'll say, yeah, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Pinterest, when really their audience are only on LinkedIn. Yeah, so you don't have to be on all of those platforms. Do the ones that you know your audiences hang out on and do them well. That will give you actually much better rewards in the long term. And remember that you can't always market all of your products. If you've got a really large line of products, you can't always market all of those things all of the time. It would be exhausting and you would be simply churning out content. So pick your top 5 search for and purchase products or offerings, and think about it in terms of the ones that we know we're going to really be able to get. These are the ones that our customers buy more frequently. These are the ones our customers love. These are the ones that we've got great results with. These are the ones that we've got great reviews and recommendations for. And think about how or why those particular products can be searched for by people looking for inspiration. Can you group them together? So top 10 gifts for an eco-friendly, dad in your life. Yeah. Think about it in terms of how can we group those together? What works really well with one another? How can we put those together into one place so that we make it easy for people to be able to make a choice? Carry out searches yourself and look to see how many people are already doing it. How many people have already got those in place? Whereabouts do those searches appear? Do they appear on Pinterest? Are they on Google? What kind of rankings do they get for those? Have a look around, have a bit of a play around and see what it is that could work for you, because it's currently working for your competitors. And then create content with a much clearer mind in terms of this is what we want to sell. We're not trying to sell everything. This is what we want to sell. This is how we know that this is the right thing. So we've done our research, we know, and this is how we're going to package that together for somebody to want to be able to buy it. Now, an example of this one, this is Benji Davis books, but it could be any books. And I think books are quite a good example of this. The thing is with books is that there is millions and millions of them out there. Yeah, I network with a couple of ladies who are authors and self-published, self-marketed. One's actually just recently switched to an agent with a publishing house, and the amount of work it's taken off her shoulders just trying to sell, because it is almost constant, because there is such a huge amount of competition particularly now you can self-publish relatively easily. Now, this is just an example in terms of Benji Davis. So books, obviously, so we're looking for books in particular about the sea. This is obviously a book, it's about the sea, and it's particularly aimed at young children. Now, we need to bear those in mind as we come back to those as we go through the remaining slides. Now, there are lots of different places where you can look for content ideas. Answer the Public is a great one. If you haven't already, just Google Answer the Public. It's a freemium that you can sign up for. So you get a certain number of searches a month before you need to pay for it. It is an absolute mine of questions that are being asked. So it is basically around questions. So you put in a couple of keywords, so children's books, for example, and then see what kinds of questions are currently being searched for. It's fairly up to date, so it operates on the last day basis. So it's search data up till yesterday. And then if you scroll down right to the bottom, you've got a huge list of alphabetical choices. It's great for creating blog content, great for creating content to be able to talk around the subject that you've got, and great to see some linked ones as well. So you can see, is it this or that? Those are all part of that search as content. So great one, it's a place to start is Answer the Public. Google Trends, Google Analytics, and Google Search Console. Now, these are all part of the Google Suite. All of these are provided free. Google Trends, that graph that we showed in terms of the Christmas gift searches was from Google Trends. Again, I'd definitely check it out if you haven't already. There are two options though, because you can do this for any different countries. If you do a search for Google Trends, make sure you pick the .co.uk, not the .com. If you do go into the .com, there's an arrow on the top right where you can drop it down to .co.uk so you can look for a UK search perspective. Obviously, if you're based in the UK. If not, you can do it for any of the countries that you're based in. Google Analytics is a great way of figuring out how you're currently attracting your customers. So that all forms part of acquisition within Google Analytics or GA. So have a look in GA, have a look into that acquisition. Where are you currently getting your audience from? What kind of content do you have on those platforms already that's driving those for you? And then Google Search Console. Google Search Console has a number of different tools available to it. It used to be called Webmaster Tools a few years ago now, but it's now known as Google Search Console. What this gives you is a couple of things. One is it lets you know where you're currently ranking for keywords. So if, for example, you were children's books, you could put children's books and you could see whereabouts you're currently ranking, what page you appear on and what number you're on. But it'll also tell you which keywords are currently driving traffic through to your site. It'll also tell you if you've got any broken links on there as well. So it'll look for those. So it's a really handy tool to have. And all of those are free. Lots of different sources available to you for developing content. And when you're thinking about content, think about what you need to be creating and how do you like to take in content yourself? So do you read? Do you watch? Do you listen? Are you a podcast fan? Do you prefer to watch videos, explainer videos, those kinds of things, how-tos? Or do you like to see the text and the image alongside it when you're reading? The reality is that all of us learn in different ways, and we all like to take in content in different ways as well. Yeah, so I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts when I walk the dogs every day. I listen to podcasts when I'm in the car. If I've got a long journey, I'll very often break up the music with a podcast as well. So I'm a big listener, but I also like to read and watch as well. Now, I might be slightly different. I live in online marketing, so I'm online a lot. I don't just faff around on Facebook, which is what my kids think I do for a living. Obviously, it's a little bit more in depth than that. But think about how you like to absorb content. The chances are, if you ask a group of 20 people, everyone would have a slightly different answer. So when you're thinking about content, don't just make one way, because you could be excluding other people. So if you only do videos, what about the people who like to read and like to see it in a written form? What about people who like to listen to it? Because it is possible then to maximize your content when you think about it that way. So as you can see here, this is the same search in terms of for that Benji Davis. So books for 3-year-olds that love the sea. So this has come up as one of the search. So this is readbrightly.com. This is 10 swimmingly good reads for kids who love sea life. Yeah, love the title. Great title. It's come up under that search and it's giving me some of those books there. And then obviously I can click through and see more items. But that blog content actually from that company's point of view, from Read Brightly point of view, could be used in lots of other ways. So that blog content is great for SEO, as proven here. It's one of the things that's appeared in the searches. From a video content perspective, it would be really easy to have a little extract of each of those books read out, available on that page to help me with my buying decision. It might be a nice way to have on social media, me showcasing those 10 books in a live, or on a Facebook, on an Instagram story or something like that. I can use it as content for email marketing to let people know that these are the guides that we've got available. If you want to come and buy, these are all the different guides that we've got. Maybe showcase 2 or 3 different guides, one for maybe older children, one for adults. Targeted ads. Yeah, so once you know that that content's working for you, use it as a basis for your targeting ads. What's currently driving traffic? Look at your data before you make that decision, but then decide, well, actually, this is a really good thing. We know that this is working for us. Yeah, let's put a bit of money behind it and make it go even further. Or social media adverts. Again, thinking about the terms that people use, the content that they've got. There's all kinds of different ways that you can get the most out of your content, and you can repurpose it for every different channel. So it's very rare that we have a piece of content that won't appear in lots of different ways on lots of different platforms, taking each difference of each platform into account, obviously, but also thinking about it in terms of let's get the absolute maximum bang for our buck out of this one idea or this one piece of content. So even something as simple as this, for example, this blog here, yeah, so this is just an article talking about 10 good reads for kids who love sea life. Each one could be showcased on Facebook. We could do a Facebook Live, we could do an Instagram story, we could do a video on the website for people who really would prefer to watch or to listen to it. There's so many different ways that we can use that one idea to create content that we can showcase across all of our different channels. And obviously maximize your content for user experience. So think about how easy is it for them to be able to pull this together when putting yourself right in your customer's shoes. So remember that slide that we talked about that. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. What's the best way for us to get them to do what it is that we want them to do? Yeah, so really thinking about their user experience, make it as easy as possible, as few clicks as possible to be able to buy. Because first world problem, admittedly, but if we can't buy what we want, we get frustrated very easily. We move on, we find somewhere where we can buy it easier. When you're thinking about that content planning and development, focus on your customer. What challenges do your customer have this Christmas? Yeah, so what can you be talking about? What can you be inspiring them with now? And what can you then build into that plan between now and the big day itself? Use that active listening. So what are our customers responding well to now? What have they responded well to in the past? What is it that has driven traffic through before now? So use that data that you've got. Not just numbers, not just in terms of, oh, we had 2,000 people visit our website on that day. Fantastic. What did you do to get it? If that's unusual for you, what was it that you were doing elsewhere that drove that traffic through? Where was that traffic acquired? Yeah, so use that data sources that you have, the information that you have, to really dig deep into what has driven that for you in the past, because that's what you need to be doing again. That might also, if you're struggling with it, help you to identify your customer better. So think about those bestsellers. When those bestsellers are sold, where's that traffic coming from? What is it that we're doing to generate those sales? Is it on the back of a campaign? Is it on the back of a blog? Is it an influencer? What is it that's working? And what do we need to do again? Because once you know what's likely to work, then you can plan ahead and you can have that content plan in place. Very often, again, this comes back to the numbers not just being the numbers. Yeah, it's about knowing what your best engagement rate is and what you're going to do to beat it. It's about understanding what's worked for you in the past and what hasn't. And if you're zero and you're starting this from brand new, then it's always worth looking at what your competitors are doing. So what is everyone else doing? What else is it? What can I offer that's different to that, but can have that same kind of conversation? And allow for flexibility, because we never know what's going to happen. I think the last 18 months, more than anything else, have proved that. Who'd ever heard of furlough? Who'd ever heard of pandemic? Who knew that we were going to be in the situation that we were in? But allow for flexibility, and also allow for that when that plan's in place that you may need to change it. Something may happen that makes what you're doing not appropriate. Something may happen that means you want to bring that campaign forward because actually this is the right time for us to be able to optimize it. You may have a campaign planned for the start of December, but actually notice that maybe mid-November is better or early November is better because we're already starting to get an increased interest. And know your goals. So what are you trying to achieve with all of your content? What are you trying to achieve with your online marketing? What does good really look like to you? Because that needs to be the basis of your plan. If that's to increase sales, fantastic. What do you need to have in place to be able to show that you're doing that and to be able to do that? If it's about brand awareness, again, what is it that we need in place to be able to track that? What are we going to be doing to increase that brand awareness? The other thing in terms of knowing your goals and allowing for flexibility is that things change a lot. We are very much in rented space. So the Google algorithm may change overnight. Yeah, and what you've been doing so far that's working may suddenly not work anymore. Same with Facebook. Facebook may turn around, or any of the social media platforms may turn around and go, we no longer want to deal with people who do X. There's nothing we can do about that. It's all rented space. So you need to be able to allow for flexibility. You need to be able to review it. And this is where having that plan, just gathering dust on a shelf, doesn't work. It needs to be a living, breathing document that helps you to plan. But spend that time now while you're maybe quieter before the Christmas rush, getting things in place and planning that content. What do we need to be talking about? Because who is it that we need to connect with? Who's most likely to buy our products or service? What is it that we need to be doing now to connect with that customer? And I can almost guarantee it's about planting those seeds for when they're ready to buy. So hopefully that's given you these takeaways and action points. So what products or services do you have that people could be looking for? Think inspiration. We want to be inspired. We want to discover. We want to connect. What is it that you can be doing, and what products or services do you have that helps you to meet that need? Check your searches. So always look for, I always do a quick Google search to see what's trending. I'll always have a look on the website. So what keywords are currently driving traffic through to our website using Google Search Console, looking on things like Answer the Public to be able to find out what kind of content is there. And then when you create content, think about how you can really maximize it. So it's not just a top 10 gift guide. That gift guide then translates into so much more. That top 10 gift guide that sits on your website could be an affiliate link to Amazon. It could be a post on Pinterest. It could be 10 separate posts showcasing each of those products on Facebook. It could be an Instagram story. It could be a reel. There are all kinds of different possibilities for it. It doesn't all have to go out in one go. So pick your product, pick your service, pick your content, and then maximize it over the next few weeks. And always putting yourself in your customer's shoes and making it as easy as possible for customers to be able to buy from you. As I said, it's a first world problem, but if you go onto somebody's website, it's not simple, it's not easy. You've sold me on that idea. I know what it is I'm now looking for. I can't buy it from you. I will go elsewhere to buy it. So that's it in terms of our slides. But if you do want to learn more, if you want to do more learning with us, then my course recommendation is our social media for small businesses online. This starts on the 6th of October. We've got 2 spaces left on that course. So if you are interested in that course, please get in touch with us fairly swiftly to be able to get your spot. Alternatively, we've got another one starting on the 9th of November. Now, these are 4-week courses. They're a couple of hours a week. I'm not going to be training these. They're going to be trained by my colleague, Ed Goodman, who is, as you would expect from the name, a really good man, but he's also really, really good. He's great at B2C, great B2B. He's really good at really digging down with you and helping you to really understand. Now, the courses are one of our best sellers from last year, not surprisingly, as lots of businesses suddenly found themselves in an online world they maybe weren't as familiar with as they'd hoped. And as everything switched online, it became a much bigger ordeal for them. But we've had literally people who've contacted us after and said they've started seeing results within a matter of weeks, and within 3 weeks of them doing the course, they've started to notice a difference in their results and started moving towards the results that they want. So I highly recommend it if you are interested in learning more with us. Now, I'm happy to take any questions. I'll go back into the Zoom room shortly. But if you do want any other help, not only do we do paid courses, we've also got quite a lot of resources as well. So if you go to our website, which is socialbee.co.uk/hub, that'll take you to the resource hub. You can also enter to win a free consultancy session. If you follow the socialbee.co.uk/consultancy link, it will take you there. And we also launched our podcast. So we launched a podcast in March. Not surprisingly, lots of marketing, lots of great interviews on there, lots of useful hints and tips. So I'm going to stop that share there. Let me just double check I've covered all the questions that we've had. So I've covered those questions. If anybody's got anything else that they want to add, anything that you'd like to add in the chat box, if you found this useful, if there's anything else you'd like to see from us in the future, then please use that chat box for that. Again, apologies for the disruptions with the pets. Managed to get rid of the kids. All 4 of my kids are back at school, which is amazing given the number of isolations I've had with 4 kids at 3 different schools, as you can imagine, the juggle. So big apologies for the dogs disturbing them. They're now both actually asleep on my feet. So I'm not going to be moving for a few minutes so as not to disturb them. But please feel free to ask any questions in the chat box or to unmute yourself and ask away. I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you now if I can. I'm going to be hanging out here for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Tom, I'm interested. I know you asked a question. Feel free to not answer me if you don't want to. But Tom, I've noticed that you've got the Grape Escape. Let me just see. Are you still in the room with us? Yeah. So I noticed that you've got the Grape Escape, and I'm going to assume, is that alcohol related, because that will be a potential issue for you on social media. Yeah, interested with that one. Yeah, it's interesting. Alcohol, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, because obviously they ban, you can't promote alcohol. What I've also done is I've worked with a couple of businesses who are reasonably local to me. Actually, I worked with a vineyard, a local vineyard. I've been helping them with some of their tactics and kind of strategy. They're just a small business, husband and wife owned team, but they've had a few problems with Facebook where their organic has really been stifled because we think, because of alcohol. Their content's great, but we think it's because of the connection with alcohol. So that's something that you may need to bear in mind in terms of your social media. It makes it a little bit more difficult. Yeah, I don't know. That's something that I'm not 100% certain of, because if you look at their policies, they're really clear that alcohol isn't is banned. So I don't know how they get round that, unless it's because it's part of a subscription, maybe. I don't know. Feel free, Tom, to drop me an email, amy@socialbee.co.uk, and I will. I'll have another little bit of a dig around, because I know it's something that, as I said, the vineyard that I've been working with have hit so many different challenges and problems with it because they are alcohol based. But by all means, yeah, drop me an email just as a little reminder, and I'll have a little bit of a dig around, because it's one of the things I've never understood. There's a couple of others like Laithwaites as well that crop up, or did crop up a little bit. So yeah, I'm curious as to how they get around that, but I'll do a little bit digging if you send me an email as a reminder to see if I can figure that out for you. If anyone's got any questions, I am more than happy to answer those for you. Let's have a look. Yeah, Jill, lovely to meet you today. Yeah, we will. You will get a link. So it normally takes us a couple of days just to prepare the recording, but you will get a link sent through for you, not a problem. We do. Do we have anything at the moment for SEO? I honestly don't know. I don't know what we're currently offering. We do help with SEO because we work on a retained basis. So we can, you can pay us for help with SEO. We do consultancy. So if you wanted to have a consultancy session with us where we look at your SEO and we can kind of help you to come up with a bit of a strategy, we do that. So we've definitely got those, but I don't think we've got a plain SEO course. We do digital, and we do kind of like digital marketing for businesses where we cover lots of different aspects, but I don't think we've got anything available that's just SEO. But what I will do is I will make a note of your name. She says, I can't even find a pen, but I will make a note of the name, Jill, and I will get one of our guys at head office to drop you a link and drop you a note to let you know what it is that we're currently offering in terms of SEO. So I will certainly get that done for you. If any questions crop up afterwards, feel free to drop me an email. My email, amy@socialbee.co.uk. I don't deal with pricing at all. I know that, and I'm not fobbing you off at all, honestly. I've made a note of your name. I will get one of our head office to drop you a note. They'll have all of that information. They'll have all of the details that you can book as well, and they obviously know the best people for you to be able to book depending on what it is that you want. But we charge an hourly rate for consultancy. So depending on what you want or what you're looking for, it varies slightly. So we need to know a little bit more about your requirements before we can give you a solid quote. But I can certainly do that for you. Okay, yeah, so interesting from Isma about balancing festive content with more serious content. So it's always a little bit of a tricky one in being able to get that balance right, because you need to let people know that you are ethical, sustainable, and those are obviously quite serious in terms of what it is that you're trying to achieve and all those kinds of things. But you also want to, those posts aren't massively inspirational. They don't you know, people find them useful, people find them interesting, but they're not necessarily the ones that they're going to engage with. What I would say to you in terms of festive content is I would probably balance it out slightly. So in terms of festive now, you're going to have a small percentage of your content that is festive, more concentrating on the ethical and all those kinds of things. And then I would gradually kind of switch that balance over. So as you get closer towards Christmas, as you get kind of towards that peak after the October paycheck, running towards the end of November and the November paycheck, when you've got those, I would say gradually increase your Christmas content and gradually reduce your others, because whilst it is a driver for some, it won't be a driver for everybody. Yes, it is still important. Yes, of course, you want to be talking about it, but I would kind of gradually tip that balance back where it's more festive. And then you can always start to pull that back, obviously, as you get much closer to Christmas. What I would also say to you as well is that it is still possible to do it as an ethical and sustainable brand. It is still possible to do it with and still do it quite fun. There's a company that I follow who are very different to you, but they are an eco-friendly membership box. So they're a company called oh good grief, it's Jodie Clough is the name of the woman who runs it. My mind's gone completely blank. I'll find out the name for you. But Jodie's got Jodie is you know, she's a one-man band. She's but she's very passionate about making small changes and how small changes make a big difference, and investing in it now is better for the future. So I definitely check Jodie out in terms of let's have a look. Between Green is the name of her company. I wanted to say Forever Green, and it wasn't that. But if you look at Between Green, she's very good at even talking about the serious stuff, but still then balancing that out with fun and light-hearted content. And she's very consistent when her kind of posts pop up, you know, the kind of thing that it is that she's going to be talking about. And she's really passionate about that eco side of things and about making small changes to make a big difference long term. So it is possible to talk about other stuff and to talk about the more serious stuff and get that message across. It doesn't have to be really serious to still get a serious message across. So definitely check out hers. I appreciate she may be very different to what it is that you're doing, but definitely worth checking that out. But in terms of that festive and serious now, I would say, you know, at the moment you've got your more serious eco and ethical and sustainable here, and your Christmas, and then you want to gradually shift that balance over the next couple of weeks so that you've got that festive feel to it in place for kind of end of October, and then that run into November to the first week in December, when hopefully you'll be able to maximize that content for you. You're welcome. I'm more than happy to take any other questions, and if anybody's got anything, I'm more than happy to help with any queries. As I said, if you think about something afterwards and think, oh God, I wish I'd asked that question, then you can always email me, Amy, amy@socialbee.co.uk. I will be more than happy to help. If nobody has any other questions, then you are free to go. I always feel a little bit like a school teacher and the school bell's rung, but you are free to go. Or, you know, I'm still here. If anybody does have anything they'd like to ask them, please feel free to do so. I very much hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that that was useful for you, and that you enjoy the rest of the day, and that you have a fantastic run up to Christmas, and that you can maximise the Christmas season with some of the things that you've learned.